Will Smith is significantly bigger than me. We are not the same size. Never gonna happen. No. I took that hit like Pacquiao.
By Will Smith. Chris got slapped in the face. When it happened, I thought it was fake.
Dave Chappelle is taking shots at Will Smith again, but this time it's escalated way beyond what anyone expected. Ever since that Oscar slap, Will has stayed a regular target in Chappelle's sets. Now, there are whispers getting louder that even his son might be dragged into the spotlight. So just how far is Dave willing to push this? And is there anything Will Smith can actually do to stop it? Let's break down Dave Chappelle's latest remarks and why everyone's talking. The moment that flipped everything. For years, Will Smith dominated headlines and seemed untouchable, but his life was about to shift in ways he never imagined. The world watched the Fresh Prince shine as King Richard. So when that Oscar nomination came in, the stage was perfectly set. Fast forward to the 2022 Academy Awards, Will was ready to take over, possibly winning his first Best Actor Oscar. A moment he had waited his entire career for was right there in front of him. But he had no idea what the night really had in store. An Oscar? Sure, but there was something else brewing. Drama. The Oscars were lining up a night full of laughs and risky moments, and they picked the perfect host, Chris Rock. From the outside, missing that night wasn't even an option. The vibe was elegant, the setting was polished, and Chris Rock was running the show. He was there to shake the room, get people laughing hard, maybe even spill a drink or two. But what they didn't fully account for was Chris's sharp ability to hit nerves. He's known for that. Just like Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Cat Williams, basically any comic who knows their craft. The night kicked off with Chris going in on everyone, keeping the energy high and the jokes rolling.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
The room laughed. The mood stayed light until that one moment. Chris scanned the crowd and landed on Jada Pinkett Smith, Will's wife, rocking a bald look. She was dealing with alopecia, but when it came to Chris, nobody was off limits, right? He jumped straight into a joke about it, and the crowd reacted instantly. But Will wasn't feeling it, not at all. He knew the risks, felt the tension rising. Something about it hit deep. So he stood up and did what nobody saw coming. He walked on stage and slapped Chris across the face, and just like that, the entire night changed.
Oh, wow! Wow! Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Forget the awards, forget the red carpet, this became the moment. A full-on slap on one of the biggest stages in the world. Even though he wasn't there in person, Dave was watching from a distance as everything he'd been pushing against, especially cancel culture, was about to blow up again, and in his eyes, it pointed straight back to Will Smith. Dave had always respected him, but in that moment, right before winning his award, Will showed a different side. A lot of people felt like Dave was gearing up to come for him. Whether he keeps it at jokes or takes it further, that's still unfolding. But this wasn't just about a slap, it tapped into something deeper in comedy. Comedy's dark night. When Dave Chappelle speaks, it hits. The raw stories, the sharp humor that either makes you stand up and clap or leaves you shocked, and that signature grin after the punchline. That's the line real comedians walk, somewhere between truth and offense, half-truths and exaggeration. At least, that's how Dave sees it. And he's not alone. Over time, culture has placed Dave on a high pedestal, alongside names like Cat Williams, Bernie Mac, Bill Burr, and Chris Rock. These aren't just jokers, they're voices who call out things others won't say out loud. Dave has been landing hits and stirring conversations since day one. Sketches like Prince playing basketball and Rick James put him on the map, and audiences embraced it without much pushback. But that success made him curious. How far could he really go? Who decides the limits? So he started testing boundaries, jokes about race, society, sensitive topics, all delivered with just enough bite to spark reactions. It was bold, fresh, and fearless. Comedy started shifting into a space where almost anything could be said if it was funny enough, and Dave mastered that lane. For years, it felt like comics had freedom without consequences, which makes Will's action even more serious. Who would have thought a bold joke could lead to a slap? A line got crossed. The tension was undeniable. And it didn't stop there. This didn't happen in some bar or after party, it happened at the Oscars, one of the biggest stages on earth. Even though Chris took the hit, the impact spread across the entire comedy world. Cat Williams, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr all felt it. A single moment that could push comedians back into silence. So now the big question is, how does comedy respond? Did Will just put himself, Jaden, Jada, and his entire family right in the crosshairs? Will Smith's attempts at repair? While social media turned the moment into fuel for cancel culture debates, Will saw it differently. He saw a grown man losing control over a joke. He knew he messed up, even if it happened in the heat of the moment. And that wasn't an excuse. So he reached out to Chris Rock, trying to fix things, hoping to rebuild some kind of respect. But can you really come back from slapping someone on live television? Will wasn't sure, but he tried. Now the next move was on Chris. Meanwhile, Dave stayed quiet, watching everything unfold as Will tried to make things right. But everything shifted when Chris finally responded. He wasn't ready to talk. According to Will, Chris said he'd reach out when he felt like it. Clearly, he was still angry getting slapped over. A joke will do that. Is greater than music, is greater than, but there was more to it. Chris hinted, in his own way, that he wasn't going to fight another black man in front of a white audience, something he said his parents taught him growing up. Whether that was the real reason, or he just didn't like his odds against the Men in Black star, people are still debating it online. Will later admitted his biggest mistake wasn't thinking about how many people he hurt. To him, it was just one moment, but the fallout hit everywhere. He even mentioned losing his friendship with Tony Rock almost instantly, and when he saw Chris's mother speak about how much it hurt her, it hit even harder. I spent the last 3 months replaying and understanding everything that happened, Will said. He showed regret, made his apology public, and tried to take responsibility, but the comedy world wasn't ready to move on. Not Chris Rock, not Bill Burr, and definitely not Dave Chappelle. What's next for Will Smith, and how has all this impacted his family? The Smith family feels the pressure. For years, the Smiths were media favorites. Will, the iconic Fresh Prince. Jada, a strong TV presence with a past linked to Tupac. And their kids, Willow dominating music and Jaden staying in the spotlight. But that image cracked the moment Will made that move. He was banned from the Oscars, then resigned from the Academy himself, accepting whatever consequences came his way. But the bigger question, how did his family react? Jada, who was at the center of the joke, initially thought it was staged, just another bit. But when she realized it was real, the damage was already done. She didn't agree with what Will did. And things got worse when footage of her eye roll surfaced online. No words, no clear signal, but people ran with it, claiming it pushed Will to act. Some even called it a silent cue. Will later shut that down, saying Jada had nothing to do with his decision. "I'm sorry, babe. I want to apologize to my kids and my family for the heat I brought on us," he said. Still, questions linger. Was he protecting them? Or did he act without thinking about them at all? Then things took another turn. Willow said her father was simply being human, acknowledging the pressure their family faces. She didn't fully defend him, but she didn't condemn him either. Her response stayed somewhere in the middle. She also claimed the backlash didn't hit her as deeply as people expected. Jaden, on the other hand, was quick to react. Right after the incident, he posted, "That's how we do it," clearly backing his father. His words stirred even more reactions online, especially within the comedy world. And that raises another question: how might comedians respond to Jaden's stance? Dave explodes. Dave has never been the type to hold back, especially when it comes to ideas he disagrees with. So it was almost guaranteed he'd go after Will. Some people question whether it was right for Dave to keep targeting Will after the slap, but Dave's answer has always been the same. "My job isn't fun, I am." His point? He's committed to pushing back against cancel culture no matter who's involved. Over the years, he's tackled everything LGBTQ topics, race, social issues, nothing was off limits. But one thing he's always stood against is bullying, and in this situation, that's how he viewed Will. Dave's history backs that up. His 2008 clash with Comedy Central is a perfect example. He called them out for releasing content he didn't approve, labeling it a power move. Even though Dave says he doesn't punch down, critics, especially from the queer community, have accused him of doing exactly that. Still, insiders say he had a new focus: Will Smith. After touring with Chris Rock, Dave released a special called The Dreamer, where he talked about the vulnerability comedians face even without incidents like the slap. He even compared it to a time he was attacked on stage, saying he thought the person approaching him was friendly, but it wasn't. he drew a clear parallel to what happened with Chris. And while the slap itself was shocking, Dave said that wasn't even the worst part. To him, the real issue was that Will seemed to enjoy the rest of the night like nothing happened. That's what didn't sit right. That was the breaking point. And it didn't take long for people to start asking, why didn't Will apologize right there on stage when he accepted his award? He had the chance, but he didn't take it. Dave turned that observation into material, adding his own humor, but the focus on Will was just the start, because now it looks like Dave has shifted some attention toward Jaden, and that raises a whole new question. Why Jaden? Chatty Jaden. The internet never forgets, and the Smith family knows that better than anyone after decades in the spotlight. But Jaden didn't seem to think about that when he spoke out. Should he have? For many young celebrities, expression and creativity go hand in hand with building their image. And Jaden leaned into that early on. From standout performances to major projects like The Karate Kid with Jackie Chan, he built a name for himself fast. He's strong. Check it on. But even before the movie dropped, critics were already questioning the idea of a black lead in such a major kung fu franchise. Still, fans couldn't ignore one thing: his last name carried serious weight. Him any hype in Hollywood in the first place, or even got him into a room with a legend like Jackie Chan. But there was really only one way to shut those doubts down early, to prove that being born into Hollywood royalty isn't required for success, and that real talent mixed with hard work always speaks louder. Fast forward to the movie's release, and Jaden's performance, especially his training scenes and on-screen discipline, had the industry talking. Beyond The Karate Kid, he also landed attention with projects like After Earth and Intergalactic. Still, the internet doesn't just remember his film career. He basically grew up in front of cameras, with paparazzi tracking his every move since childhood. But one of the biggest waves of controversy came when he referred to Tyler, the creator, as his boyfriend, sparking heavy speculation about his sexuality. That moment alone fueled years of online debate. Hollywood rumors followed him into adolescence as he explored identity, expression, and personal style in very public ways. That included bold fashion choices and associations that kept speculation alive. Jaden never directly confirmed or denied those claims, but the conversation never really stopped either. And through it all, he kept challenging norms, especially around gender expression. Dresses, skirts, heels, he wore them confidently, often blurring the lines of traditional masculinity in a way that kept him constantly in the spotlight. But the question hanging over all of it has always been the same. Is this authentic self-expression or carefully crafted visibility for a generation that refuses labels? Whatever the answer, these choices became easy material for comedians. Chris Rock only needed Jada's bald joke to trigger chaos. Imagine what someone like Dave Chappelle or Cat Williams could do with Jaden's entire public image. But beyond Dave, how have other comedians actually reacted to Will and his son? Haunted by the jokers. Will Smith striking a global comedy icon like Chris Rock was always going to shake the industry, but it didn't just shake it, it rattled the entire comedy ecosystem. Bill Burr didn't hold back. He immediately took aim at Will, calling the act cruel. But he didn't stop there. He also went after the audience, questioning how people could cheer moments later when Will walked on stage to accept his Best Actor Oscar for King Richard. Will Smith, King Richard, and the Oscar goes to Will Smith. That moment, Burr argued, felt surreal, almost like nothing had just happened. A man who had slapped a comedian on live television was still rewarded minutes later. That sparked a bigger debate. Where was accountability? And why did it feel like the rules didn't apply when the star was big enough? That question opened the door again to Cat Williams. Cat has long been outspoken about how Hollywood operates behind the curtain. He's repeatedly claimed that success in the industry sometimes comes with uncomfortable compromises, and he hasn't been shy about saying it in interviews with Shannon Sharpe and in his stand-up specials. But Cat is also known for stirring controversy wherever he goes. And after the Oscars incident, his commentary started gaining even more attention. While he didn't directly name Will Smith or Chris Rock, he criticized Hollywood culture in broader terms, especially around black entertainers and image expectations. He questioned how far people were willing to go for success and what that system rewards. That alone was enough for the internet to start connecting dots. especially when it came to Jaden's long history of pushing fashion boundaries and breaking traditional gender norms. Even though Will himself has experimented publicly, like his 2019 promotional look for Aladdin involving a dress, Jaden's consistent style evolution kept him in the crossfire of online debate, and while Jaden appeared unfazed, insiders suggest something bigger may be brewing behind the scenes rumors that Dave Chappelle is preparing material that could directly target Jaden in a way no one has seen before. So what happens next for Jaden? And is Dave really willing to go that far? Safety is off. When it comes to boundary-pushing comedians in America, Dave Chappelle sits near the top. He's never been afraid of controversy or uncomfortable conversations. But in recent years, some fans say he's become slightly more measured compared to his earlier days. Back in the early 2000s, Chappelle's show was relentless. One of his most infamous sketches, Black Bush, where he parodied then President George W. Bush pushed political satire into dangerous territory. It was bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically provocative. Dave never stayed in one place creatively. He constantly challenged social norms, politics, and culture itself, never just for shock value, but to expose systems he believed were deeply flawed. Over time, that style made him one of the most influential and controversial voices in comedy. But after the Will Smith incident, some insiders believe that version of Dave, the fully unfiltered one, might be making a return. Not just sharper jokes, but more personal, more direct, and more aggressive commentary. And that's where things get complicated for the Smith family. While sources suggest Will and Jaden have developed thick skin over years of public scrutiny, this situation feels different. Not just another wave of headlines, but something that could escalate into a larger cultural moment. Rumors even suggest Dave might be thinking bigger than just one target, possibly rallying multiple comedians into a broader statement about cancel culture, using Will Smith as the central example. Nothing has been confirmed, nothing has been denied, but the conversation is already spreading fast. So the real question is, does the comedy world eventually move on from Will's actions and Jaden's public support? Or is this just the beginning of something bigger? And more importantly, if Dave Chappelle really does flip that switch, what happens next? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And click the next video on your screen, you won't want to miss it.